All right. Good morning, people. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. All right. Great. So, first of all, a very good morning. And okay. So, anyone here who's coming to this particular session for the first time, or maybe somebody who might not have attended the session yesterday but is attending today? Anyone? Anyone who didn't attend the session yesterday but is attending today? Anyone? Aditya, first time. Okay. Two people. Got it. All right. Okay. So we'll discuss in that particular way. All right. We'll wait for 2 to 3 for more minutes. If you are expecting a few other people to join in, and we're gonna wait for 5 more minutes, 2 to 3 minutes max, and then we're gonna start on. First, we're going to take a recap on the stuff that what is to be done and what we have done already, and then we'll discuss the agenda. We'll talk about what we are going to do today. And once we are set with the agenda, then we're going to move ahead and start discussing stuff. Just for a quick note from everyone, may I know how many of you have worked on any backends before, like any backend for that matter? Maybe a Node backend or maybe a Java backend, Spring Boot, anyone who has worked on a backend? Have you worked on any backend before? NodeJS will work. NodeJS. So Hemant, I believe you might have worked on Node and Express. Node and Express. Okay. And Ishan, you? Node and Express, right? Yeah. Okay. For the people who might have worked on Node and Express before, would be like a little easier session for you. You'll understand pretty much everything. For the people who have not, learned about backend, most probably they'll get an idea what backend is and how do we design a backend, right? So yesterday we were discussing on two stuff wherein we were, importing few things from the Twitter API. And did anyone try to register themselves for Twitter API, by the way? Anyone? Did you? So I believe they might have asked for an application for I believe a 2-paged application or something. Yeah, they might have, give you a form saying, why do you need this API, what you're going to do with the data and what the project is all about and stuff like that. And I believe it's still going to be pending. Yeah. 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 So Twitter is basically very, very cautious about what data is to be given to user, and whatever the data they are giving, they're particularly very cautious about it. They need typically everything related to the same. And it hardly will take like around a day or two for you to get the credentials. And once you get that, don't do that. Yes. Don't do that. And once you get the credentials, you will be pretty much good with that. All right. So that's the stuff. All right. So should we start on then? Shall we start? Let's take a quick recap on the stuff that we did yesterday. And then we're going to move ahead and design a backend and a front end for the same. How many of you have worked on HTML before? HTML and Bootstrap? Just want to know, like not even Bootstrap, but just HTML. Other people? HTML and Bootstrap? Anyone? Okay. All right. Yeah, Twinkle you have. You definitely have. Got it. Okay, got it. Okay. So not an issue. Even if it's just HTML, that's going to be fine. All right. So let's go around and let's discuss on a few things. This is different. So let me go around and open the application first. So it's in the desktop, and this is just Stream API. Let's go around and do something. Okay. All right. So what did we do? We created this application from very scratch. Let's quickly take a recap on the things that what we did yesterday. So the first thing that we did was we created up a Node application. This was the file that got created. We mentioned two scripts out here, the start script and the dev script. We are going to make use of dev script today when we'll be having the backend, when we'll be designing the backend using Express. So this would be the development script that we'll be using. Apart from that, I installed .env for environment variables, Express, which we'll be making use of for today, and Needle, which we used yesterday in order to create a communication to Twitter backend, Twitter API. And also we are going to make use of SocketIO. Anyone who has any idea about SocketIO, by the way? Has anyone worked on SocketIO? Just it's going to be fine even if it's no. I'm just going to tell you everything. Just an idea. Okay. Okay. How many of you have literally no idea about SocketIO, by the way? How many of you like complete no, like never worked on SocketIO? All right. I'm not going to go around and put a lot of details on SocketIO, but you'll get an, yeah, it's a client server connection. It's kind of like Ajax, or you could say it's kind of like Fetch, but it's kind of like a more advanced version of the same. So it's kind of like an asynchronous communication between the client and a server, and you do not need to do anything. All you need to do is just tap onto the functions, and it's like very pretty standard. You do not need to like go around and memorize onto all of these things. Like it's very standard. When you'll use it, you'll realize that yeah, it doesn't require too much of studies and stuff like that, right? So we're going to talk about SocketIO when we'll be designing our own client and our own backend. So this is going to be very helpful, right? And at the end, we are going to use NodeMon in order to create or run our server, and that doing asynchronously, and it's going to be a live server, right? So that's what we have done. Then yesterday, what we did, we created up this .env file, and inside this, I kept my bearer token. So what is this bearer token? This is the token which helps you to authorize yourself to Twitter API, saying that this is me who is going to, integrate the tweets and stuff. So this is the bearer token that you get the moment you create your, developer account on Twitter. Okay, so this is what I've copied out here. Next thing that I did was creating this index.js. So let's quickly have a look on what this index.js has to offer us. So we needed Needle. So because we needed to make a connection to a client and a server, so we required Needle. Then we did the config, and in the config, I just configured whatever is in my .env folder, so that I can just come here and say, or could use these values, which is going to be the bearer token. As you can see out here, I'm just using token, and even in this token, I'm just going to say process.env.Twitter bearer token, so that I could just go around and access the bearer token that I mentioned in this .env file. So for that, I've used this .env, and I just configured that. And in the token, I said process.env.Twitter bearer token, which I've just mentioned in my .env folder. Pretty cool stuff. Then we console logged the token. That was pretty cool. And then what we did, we mentioned two URLs. Now these URLs is one to the rules URL, wherein you get the rules and set the rules. So the getting and setting of the rules would be done on the rules URL, right? And when we were streaming, you might have seen when I was creating something of a stream tweet function, I was using the stream URL, right? So what was the idea? The idea was very simple, that we are going to keep a rule. What is a rule? A rule is just a keyword. Now, once I have this rule, what I'll do, I'll get the rules first from the rules URL, and then I'll set the rules to this rules URL. And in turn, you might have seen in between, when you get and set these rules, what happens is that even if you have the earlier rules being mentioned, it's still not going to remove that. It's not going to keep the slate clean, clean for the next request to be done, right? So in that case, what did I do? I created up my rule. So the rule here is coding. You can put it any rules that you want, whatever of the kind of like tweets that you're looking for or you're interested in, you're just going to keep it out here. Keep that in mind. These rules are going to be an array, right? So what we have done, we have created up an array of objects, and inside that I've only passed one object, which is going to value as coding, right? Now we said we'd be needing three functions to do the job. First is to get the rules. So as you could see that I created up a function. Now keep in mind, this is an asynchronous function. What is the meaning of asynchronous? That you do not need to reload the page every time you're going to make a get request to this gets URL, right? And here you could see that I'm using Needle. Now keep that in mind for the people who are not very familiar with ES6 functions or ES6 notations. So in that case, whatever functions that you're going to make asynchronous, you'll have to wait for these functions to execute, because see, it's like pretty common sense, because Asynchronous means that you're not going to reload the page. So without reloading the page, it's going to do the job. That means this might take a little time and you need to wait for the function to execute. So that's what we are doing. We are calling this needle. And because this is an asynchronous function, we'll have to wait for needle to do the job, right? So we're going to make a get request to this rule URL. And in the headers, I'm going to pass this authorization. Yeah, no, it's not RxJS. This is ES6, just ES6, right? We are working on Node, so it's just going to be ES6. So, and at the end, we console log this response body, and that's what we are returning back. Okay. And then what we're going to do, we are going to set the rules, right? And how we're going to set these rules, I'm going to create a function called as set rules. It's going to be exactly the same. Now we are setting the rules. Keep that in mind. We are posting something to the server, right? Now, if you are posting something to the server, rather than getting or doing a get request, we are going to do a post request to this rules URL. And what is to be posted? This rules is to be posted. This is the rules. So what we have done, we have created the data which is to be passed while we'll be setting up the rules. So here's what you can see. You are seeing that you have a data, and inside that you're adding these rules, and you're passing this data as the header while you're expecting a response back from the server, right? And you could see that in the headers, I'm saying that the response that I'm expecting is going to be a JSON response, and the authorization, because I need to authorize myself, I'm going to pass my token as well. And then I'll be expecting a response, and that's what I'm doing. I have this response and I'm logging the response body, and this function is also returning the same response.body, right? So this is the second rule, which is going to stream the rules. Now, next, as you could see, that whatever rules that you're going to set, it's going to be set permanently until and unless you don't go around and delete them. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a function called as delete rules, which is going to clean the slate and set the rules once more, right? So in that case, whatever rules that we have, we are going to pass it with the rules, and we are going to check if the rules is going to be an array or not. Because as I said, every rules that you're going to define, it's going to be an array of objects. So that's what I'm checking. I'm checking if the rules is an array or not. If it's not, I'm just going to return a null. If it's good, in that case, it's going to match the IDs. Now keep that in mind. Whatever rules is needed to be deleted, you'll have to delete them specifically. So in that case, what I'm doing, I'm streaming out or filtering out these IDs by using a higher order array method called as map. So you could see that I'm saying rules.data.map, and in each and every rule, I'm going to segregate with the rule ID, and these IDs are needed to be deleted, right? So all the IDs will be deleted one by one. And after that, once it's deleted, you could see that again, it's the same thing that we are doing. We are going to expect a response, and that's what we are console logging. And if you'll see out here in the IFI, that's what we have done. We are saying we are setting the current rules for whatever rules that we are going to get from the rules URL. And we are going to get these current rules. And first we have to delete these rules, right? Because we have to swipe out the clean slate. And then we are going to set the new rules for whatever rules that we have mentioned out here in the rules section, right? And after that, what we are going to do, we are going to stream these tweets. If this is all fine, it's not going to go on the catch block. If something goes wrong with any of these three functions, it's going to come into this catch block, and it's just going to catch these. And then we are going to stream tweets. So what is in the stream tweets? Stream tweets is just going to make use of Needle, and it's going to make a request to stream URL. Now, because we need these tweets, right? We need to get these tweets. So same thing, we are going to make a get request to the stream URL, and going to pass the authorization as the bearer token. So that's what I'm doing. And now I'm going to get onto the stream on, and I'll be getting a data. And in this data, this will be a response. So you could see that whatever data I'm going to pass, this is going to be coming in the form of a string. So what I'm doing, I'm converting it into an object by using JSON.parse, and I'm putting that inside my response, and that's what I'm logging. If something goes wrong, I'm going to wait because I don't want the connection to be broken down, right? And that's what I'm doing. So are we good with this part? Whatever things that we did in yesterday's session, are we good till here? Are we good till here? Yeah. If you're good till here, just give me a yes. If you have any doubts, give me your doubts. And if you're good, just give me a yes. We're going to move ahead. Other people? Others? Are we good? I'm waiting for everybody to respond back. Yeah. All right. So Chalo. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to create a server and a client, right? Now, what is the whole agenda? Let's talk about the agenda first. The agenda is very simple, that whatever tweets that we are getting, we are logging it into the console of this application. For example, if let's say I'm going to put this as, let's say, code, right? And if I save this, and if I come to the terminal, and if I say npm start, what's going to happen? It's going to run. And you can see out here, if you'll realize this. So what's happening? First of all, the earlier, whatever the rules were set, it's going to delete these rules. And then it's going to create a new rule, which is going to be this code rule. And then it's going to fetch all the data related to these tweets. Now, these are the data which I want to pick this up, and I'm going to put it in the front end. Now, for the front end part, you can keep it anything that you want. It could be a React app, it could be an Angular app, it could be just plain JavaScript, just, you know, like bare minimum DOM that you're going to use. So in this case, I'm just going to use vanilla JavaScript. If you're interested, if you're a, you know, full stack developer, you can use any of the frameworks that you want. You can use React, you can use Angular, you can use anything that you want, right? That's completely up to you. Okay. So what we are going to do, we are going to make a front end, and in the front end, what we are going to do, we are going to use plain vanilla JavaScript, and we are going to design a front end for the same. But before we have a front end, we are going to design the whole backend, where we're going to make this thing, whatever we have designed as an application, as an express app, as a backend, and then we are going to integrate that backend to the front end. So we're good. Are we good with the agenda? So we're going to make this, whatever we have done yesterday, as a React app, which is going to act as a backend. And then we are going to integrate this backend to the front end. And then we are going to see all the tweets in the front end part. So we're good. Shall we do that? Guys, shall we do that? If you're ready, then I'm ready. All right. So let's stick to the agenda one, that we are supposed to make this, you know, what do you call this, as a React app. So what we are going to do, I'm just going to say const http. So first of all, I'd be needing http because I'm going to make you know, this as a React or as an express app. So first of all, I'm just going to require http, because again, this is going to make a request to the front end as well. So you'll have to keep that in mind. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to make use of path, because I'll be setting the path, that what is the front end that I'll be, you know, navigating to. So for that, I'll be needing path. So I'm just going to say require path. Okay. And the next thing, we are going to use express. So I need that. So I'm just going to say require express. All right. And then next to that, I'll be also be integrating my front end. So for that, I'll be using SocketIO. And I'm just going to say require socket.io. Right? Do you remember we installed this app? Set tools implement in React. Can we directly implement them? You can, but you'd be needing a front end, because for React is just a front end framework. So you'll have to design up a backend the same way, right? So you can, but for that, it's going to be a little more difficult, because the fetch is going to take a lot of headers. But the reason I'm creating this in Node, because passing headers using Node is pretty easy. Because in the case when you'll be making use of HTTP component in React, that is going to take a lot of headers, and it's going to take a lot of functions to do the same job. But again, if you're asking, can we? Of course we can, right? We can do that. So that's pretty stuff that we can do. All right. Now we have okay. I hope I answered up your question, Snehit. So if you're saying that we can we do that? The answer is yes. Should we do that? The answer is no, right? So the best option could be is to, you know, have a backend and do all the stuff on the backend, and then integrate that back into your front end, because it's good to, you know, segregate both the parts, the front end and the backend part. Check it, Sneh. So it's completely up to you. You can do that. So we good. Shall we do that? So I just you know, used these few functions, right? Because I'd be needing them in order to create the front end and the back end. So now for the people who have no idea about Express, so what happens in Express is that once you require this Express is a backend, right? You're going to create a backend application on Express. So for that, as you could see, that if you're running on any server, even if you're talking about React, for the people who might have learned React, you might have seen that the moment you do npm start, the moment you have your React application, and when once you do npm start, it automatically starts to run on a port, and by default it's a localhost 3000 if I'm not wrong. Do you remember? For the people who might have worked on React, you might have seen the only thing that you need to do the moment you create your React app is to run it by just saying npm start, and it starts to run on localhost 3000. Same is the case with the backend. Now we are creating a backend, but we do not have a full-fledged framework for the backend, and the full-fledged front end that we'll be having, the backend that we'll be having, it's going to be completely based on Express. So for that, what we are going to do, we will have to design, or we have to dedicate a port for the same. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come down here and I'm just going to say const port. And this port is going to be taken by the Express app. So I'm just going to say process.env.port. And I'm going to decide this 5, let's keep this 3000. Okay, so my backend application is going to be running on 3000, localhost 3000. Okay, so that's what I've decided out here. Okay, now what we are going to do, we are going to make the app, right? Now we'll be deciding, or we'll be creating the React app. So I'm just gonna say creating the Express app. Why am I calling React over and over again? We are creating the Express app. So I'm just gonna come out here. How do we create the Express app, you ask? It's very simple. Just create a variable, and outside of that, just call Express as a function. And you could see that your app is now created. The backend is created, the app is created, and you can run this app. Now what we're going to do, we'll be telling this Express to work on that particular port in a little while. But before that, we also would be requiring something called as the IO, right? So let's go around and run the server first. So let's go around and come out here and say const server, and we are going to make use of HTTP, and we are going to say create server, and I'm going to make this app as a server now, because what I want that my backend, the Express app, should work as a server. So I'm making use of this HTTP library that I imported, and I'm going to call onto this create server function. I'm going to pass my app saying that whatever app, the Express app that I've created, make it a server, right? And then I'm going to make use of IO, because the server needs to communicate to the front end. For that, I'm going to make use of SocketIO, and I'm just going to say SocketIO, and I'm going to pass the server, because the server needs to talk to the front end, right? So this is the case. I hope this makes sense. So what we have done, we created up a Express app, and this app is needed to be working as a server. So I created this a server by making use of this HTTP library that I used. I said http.create server, and now my app, my Express app, is going to be working as a server. Is it equivalent to app.use? You can say that. Huh. Hemant is right. So now we have made this as a backend, as a server. Now the server actually needs to listen to a particular port. So let's go down at the bottom after this iffy, and let's make the server listen to the port, right? For whatever port that we have created, which is localhost 3000, let's make our server listen to that port. So it's very simple. You can just come out here. You can just say server.listen, and you are going to pass this port. And after this port, it's going to perform a function. It's going to be a fat arrow function. And as of now, let's just go around there and just say console.log, and it's going to say listening to, or listening on port, for whatever port that I have. Let's say port, and the value of the port that I have, which is port. Save this, and now if you'll just run your server, it should say that I'm running on port 3000, right? As you could see out there, It's going to say that I'm running on port 3000, right? Or listening to port 3000, right? So with this, I can say that my server is created. I have created up my server, and this is the case that I've done. Are we good till here? Are we good till here? Anything that you want to ask as of now? Anything that you want to ask? Any confusions? No? Chalo. Now, let's do one thing. Great. So this is the case. Now let's do one thing. Let's do one thing. Let's actually connect the client as well, and then let's go around and make the. So let's do one thing. The moment we are done with streaming the tweets, let's do one thing. Let's go around and comment this out, because this if is going to run automatically. So I'm just gonna comment that out, right? And chalo, let's do one thing. Let's make this application, or let's make this server communicate to the backend. Okay. Oh, sorry, to the front end. So now we have this server. What do I want? I want to open the connection between the client and a server. Then we'll go around and create the server. But first of all, let's go around and make this server be able to talk to the front end. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm just going to say server can now talk to client. And how it's going to be happening? This is going to happening using socket.io. Now for the people who have no idea about socket.io, socket.io is a library which helps you to create a connection between a client and a server in a very asynchronous way, wherein both the doors from the client side and from the server side, both the doors are opened asynchronously. That means you do not need to refresh the page either from the client side or either from the server side. And all the communication that happens from the client side or from the server side, both the sides are going to be asynchronous. So that's what your socket.io do, right? And when we make the server talk to the client, this is like very easy way of doing the same thing. What we do, whatever we have IO, right? We have called this as an IO. You can just come out here and you can say IO.on. This is the function which socket.io has. And you can mention the name of the connection. And right now I'm just going to call this connection. So the name of the connection, which is going to be happening between the client and a server, the name of the connection that I'm keeping here is going to be just connection, right? You can call it anything that you want, but make sure that you remember this name, because you'll be using this name somewhere else as well, right? And then it's going to perform an asynchronous function, because keep that in mind that your socket.io by default is a asynchronous function. So because this is an asynchronous function, the function that it's going to run is also going to be an asynchronous function. And let's go around and just say console.log, and let's say client connected. Now what will happen? Whenever my client is going to connect, my server should actually give me a console log saying that the client has connected, right? So if you'll save this and go back to the terminal, and if you'll clear this out and run npm start, you're just going to see that it's not going to, oh wait, io.on is not a function. Oh. No, I said async should work in this way, right? No, type error io.on is not a function. Wait, I'm just gonna say npm. Oh, okay. Wait, npm. So it's saying that IO, or rather, let's do one thing. we created up the server, right? We said server.listen to this port, and the port is 3000, right? So now what we are interested is to make a connection, right? So we're just gonna say IO on, but we didn't tell that what the IO is going to be, right? So for that, let's go around and create the client first. So in the client, oh, sorry, rather, yeah, undo. Rather, let's create a client and make a folder, and let's call this client. And inside this client, I'm going to create an index.html file, okay? Now, in here, what we are going to do, we are going to connect the front end. Most probably, this is just going to not be working because we do not have a front end as of now. But let's go around and create a front end, all right? Now, in here, let's say that we are going to create a front end, and this front end is just going to be a, just bare minimum HTML, right? So in that case, what we are going to do, we are going to make this HTML, all right? And in here, I'm just gonna call this Twitter, or let's make this live or real-time tweet string. Okay, real-time tweets. What am I doing today? Real-time tweet string. All right. Now in here, as of now, let's go around and just create an H1. All right, let's go around and just create an H1 so that we could actually see that what's happening. So I'm just gonna say H1 and let's say hello, right? And now what we are going to do, we are going to connect this using socket.io. So what we can do, let's go to Chrome. Let's go to CDN.js and let's grab the CDN for socket.io. Socket.io, right? And from here, or rather, let's go out here and say socket.io. And I'm just gonna copy the link from here. I'm going to paste this out here. All right. Now, for the people who have no idea about CDN, or let's do one thing. Or yeah, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Or rather, for JS, let's do one thing. Nah, it's gonna be fine though. Let's see. Stream. I hope. Chalo, let's work with this for a little second first. So if I save this, go back and change this to, I hope this should work now. This should work. Let's go around and npm start. I hope this is not going to give me an error. There's on is not a function. If they have Bootstrap, they know CDN for sure. Yeah, I guess so. But I guess this is not going to work for me. The reason is what I'm doing is io.on and we're creating this connection, right? So let's do one thing rather is that what could be the best other possible outcome is either I can just come out here and say console.log client connected and I'm going to create this async function, or let's do one thing. Wait, either I can do one thing is if I just do it this way, and if I make this async, oh, sorry, I make this async and I come out here and say console.log, just call it client connected, save. This should work, but let's see if it will not going to do something. So this says that SocketIO is not a function. So either all right, let's do one thing. For the time being, we can actually make use of wait, let me think. What else could be done? We are making use of this IO, right? We have this IO out here, right? And this IO is basically the SocketIO of the server, right? So I can just come down here, and after the stream tweets, I can log on to IO, and just going to say on, and should be able to create a connection. And I'm going to pass on with the function, and let's not make it console.log, client connected. Why is it showing me that SocketIO.on is not a function? Let's go around and do this. IO.on is not a function because it shows me a sync. Oh, okay, makes sense, makes sense. All right, this makes sense. So it's running the IFI, I believe. Got it. It's running the IFI by default. And it's looking into, this should work now. Yeah, got it. Right, so now this is working and it says console log client connected. Oh, sorry, listening to this port. And now what we're going to do, what the problem was, I left the IFI open. So it was just waiting for the asynchronous function. So I didn't, if you remember, I just commented out the middle part and it was looking for this IFI, or it was waiting for the IFI to actually go around and run itself. So that was the problem, right? So it was just waiting for that IFI to run, and I just, yeah, so it's just an IFI. So this makes a lot of sense. All right, so in here, let's go around and create it. We have created up this client, and in the client, I'm going to add a script, and the script is going to be just a CDN of SocketIO, because both the ends we are going to make use of SocketIO. So that's what we are doing. We also integrated the SocketIO extension using CDN out here as well, right? So I believe the CDN should work, but if it will not, we're gonna have a look at how we're going to make this work, but that's fine. So rather than doing that, all right, let's keep it this way as of now. If it will not work, we'll see. We're going to add it from the official documentation. And out here, what we're going to do, we are going to add a socket out here now. All right, so I'm just going to add a script out here. If you want, you can create and complete other file. That's completely up to you. And then we are just going to create the same socket because we're going to open the connection from both the sides. So I'm just going to create a socket out here. And I'm just going to say that this is going to be an IO. All right. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to open the connection from here as well. So I'm just going to say socket.io. And again, the connection name is going to be the same. And it's going to execute a function. And inside this as well, I'm going to write the same thing. And I'm just going to say console.log. And I'm just going to say client connected. So if we get client connected, so that if we get this client connected, that means the connection was successful. Now let's, yeah, oh, sorry. Now let's save that, stop the server, go back, and we should be good to go. Right? And you could see that it's saying listening on port 3000. And now if you'll actually will go around there and open localhost 3000, you'll see, oh, failed to respond. Oh, I believe this CDN is not right. So let's actually go back to CDN.js and I'm just going to socket.io. Copy this, get rid of that, paste this in, and this should do the job. So just gonna restart the server. Localhost 3000. It should be io.on. No, why should it be io.on? We are using socket, right? No, so inside this is just going to render this out. So IO is coming from the CDN. I'm just gonna say socket.io. Oh, sorry, socket.on. Yeah, it should be socket.on. What am I doing today? Wait. What did I keep it out here? Or rather, let's make it the default connect. This should work. Let's see. Let's see. Why is it not getting the file? Ooh. Or what we can do is one thing more we can do is, yeah, let's do one thing. Let's actually give it the value, right? So let's go down here where we have this. Let's actually socket.io.server. From here, let's go around and do one thing. Let's say app.get. And what we are going to do that on the local host, let's pass it with a request response. I'm going to explain you this stuff, right? Just give me 1 second. And what I'm going to do in here, I'm going to say in the response, yeah, in the response, send file, and it should look into part.resolve. And this should actually would be able to, first of all, look in the present working directory. Then from there, it's going to come out, and then it should be able to come out. Or it should be able to come out. Once it's out, it's going to look into the client folder. And from there, you should get index.html, right? So with that in place, save. Let's clear this out. And let's run npm start. This should work. Let's see. If I reload this, yeah, we get this. But it's saying IO is not defined. But this is getting the file, so we're good with that. IO is not defined, right? So I believe the problem here is going to be from the CDN side. But let's do one thing. Let's do one thing. that or rather, let's do one thing else. Let's go back to CDN.js and let's copy the whole tag. Or let's do one thing. I'm going to add the script tag as well, right? So, or I think this CDN is not giving me the right CDN. So I'm just gonna go around and search it on Google. I'm just gonna say SocketIO. I'm just gonna say SocketIO script CDN. So I guess I can get it from here. Uh, 4.0.1 SocketIO.js. Let's actually copy this along. Let's go back. I guess this is a problem from the CDN side. Let's save this, restart. This should work. Let's see if the CDN is working fine or not. From here, if you reload the page, you should see client connected, right? So it was a problem of the CDN, right? So out here as well, you could see that the client is connected, and you could see here you're seeing client connected, okay? Or out here, you can rather than saying client, you should actually say server connected. So with that, if you're clear, again, run this, you'll see listening to port. And if the client starts to listen, you're going to say server connected. And in the server, you're going to see client connected. Make sense? The CDN is basically of the way of importing. See, in the backend, what you can do, you can import libraries, right? So here too, you can include libraries. But in the case, if you want to include the same, which is this, Socket.io, if you want to integrate Socket.io in the front end, so you'll have to mention the script. So if you want the correct script, I'm just going to put that in the chat section for the people who will be designing this app and who would be needing this. I'm just going to pass this out to you people as well. So this is the right CDN that I found. So it was a problem from the CDN.js side. All right, then. So we are good. If you're good till here, if you don't have any problems, or if you want to ask anything, feel free to push your doubts, or else we are going to move ahead. If you have any doubts as of now, feel free to push your doubts, and then we are going to move ahead quickly. Are we good? Guys, are we good? Now you can see that my client is done. My server is done. And once my client and server is done, they have started communicating to each other. Now I'm going to pass the data from server side to client side, and I'm going to log that out in my console. So that is what I'm going to do. All clear, other people? So we established the connection between the both of the side, and we open the asynchronous door between the client and the server, and they can now actually go around and communicate. Okay. So for that, what I'm going to do, let's say, I connected the string, right? And there I'm just console logging the stuff. If you remember, in here, I'm just saying client connected. So in here actually goes, let's keep this log. Let's keep this log. I'm not going to go around and do that. But now in here, I'm going to pass the stream, which was mentioned in the if you remember. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to get the current rules and do the old stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass the stream to the front end. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So in here, what you can do is you can copy this whole stuff up, copy this out, and paste it out here. All right. And I'm just gonna uncomment this, and I'm again gonna go around and uncomment this. All right, so this would be good, but the problem here is going to be one problem, and the problem is that you're waiting for this function. You're using a wait, right? So this should be async. and this should work. So let's see. We are done with this. Or no, wait one second. Out here, if you're using stream tweets, you'll have to pass this IO, right? Because you're making the connection using IO. So let's do that. I'm just gonna pass IO to the stream tweets. So wherever I have written stream tweets, I'll have to pass the socket parameter as well. So I'm just gonna pass the socket parameter. And in here, what I'm doing, I'm directly saying JSON.parse, right? So rather than console logging this, what I'm going to do, I'm just gonna come out here and I'm just going to say socket dot emit. And what I'm going to emit is the value called as tweet. And in this, I'm going to pass my response. So in the, now see, try and understand what we are doing. We are passing this connection to the stream tweets. And in the stream tweet function, see, I passed this socket and I'm saying whenever somebody is going to connect to this function, which is the stream tweet, which my front end is doing, I am going to pass the value of tweets and the name would be connected, or the data that is going to be passed is going to be named as tweet. And what I'm going to pass is this response, right? So that means my front end is going to get the values, whatever values that I'm getting. Initially, I was just saying that we are going to get something. So if I save this and restart my server, so let me actually go around and do is npm run dev so that my server keeps on running. So you could see listing on port 3000. And if you'll actually will go ahead and refresh this. So server is connected. Invalid request. They deleted one, deleted 0. And it's saying that I have to the values, right? So created one. Wait, did I do anything wrong? So what did I do? I'm getting this current rules, which is an await. Then I'm calling this delete rules, catching errors. Oh, and we are saying stream tweet. And we are passing this IO. And in the stream tweets, we are actually passing socket. Needle.get stream URLs, header, stream.on, the data. We're saying const response, which is going to JSON.parse, socket.emit, the tweet, and this is going to put this response. So let's do one thing rather in the index HTML. Let's do one thing. Let's actually catch that in the index.html rather. So where we have this console log of the server connected. Let's keep it this way only. And let's actually get the tweets. So let's say socket.on. And we will be getting something called as tweet. If you remember, we are passing it from the backend. We're going to catch those tweet. And what we're going to do is to console log that. I'm just going to write console.log. And what I'm going to log is the tweets. All right. So let's close that, clear this up, and run the development server again. So you could see that if you'll go out here and refresh, you're going to see the server is connected and you should get the stream of the tweets as well. So you can see it's created, the value is scored, and this should come out in a second. Yeah, so you're getting the tweets from here. You can see that. So in the console, you're getting all the tweets. So whatever tweets you were passing on there, what we were extracting yesterday, here you can see we are getting all the tweets. So you can see we have an author ID, the ID, the public matrix. In the public matrix, you're getting the like count, the retweet count. And here you could see that we have an includes, which is basically an array. And inside this array, you can see that we have the user ID as well. You can see out here. So this is the user ID, the name of the user and the username, right? So this is pretty cool. So you can see that everyone is good till here. So what we did from the backend, we collected all the tweets, we passed it to the front end, and in the front end, you could see that I switched on the connection, and I said you will get something called as tweet, which we are passing out from here. As you could see that here we are passing on to the tweets. Where is it? Where is it gone? Yeah, here. So you could see we are emitting using socket, we are emitting tweets. So we are saying we're going to pass response, and this response will have a name called as tweet. And from the backend, we are passing it to the front end. And we're saying when I log onto this connection, I'm going to get something called as tweet, and I'm going to destructure that. And I'm going to convert it into an array or an object, and I'm going to console log that. Right? And that's what you can see out here. You're getting all that logs from here. So we're good with that. So now the only job that we are left with is going to be how we are going to display the data. So only the display data part is remaining. So shall we do that? Right? Shall we do that? Huh? Yeah, it's a very detailed API, right? So just to integrate the API, you're going to require a lot of things to do and go around and do, right? So shoo, we have done that. So we have this data out here, and this data is directly coming from the backend that we created. And you could see that it's still going to, go around and log, keep on logging, because the server is still running, because we are working on NodeMon. So NodeMon is going to keep your server busy. So that's what we're going to do. All right. Okay, then. So let's do the UI part now. So all the functionality part is done. So let's actually go around and do the UI part. So shall we do that? Shall we do that? Are you ready? So now, yeah, please ask Nishan. Please. If you have any doubts, please ask me. If we deploy it, yeah. If we deploy it, how will it get our tweet? So for that, that's a very interesting question, actually. So if you deploy your front end, you should be sure that your backend is deployed too. Make that sure that your backend is deployed too. So either you can deploy your backend on Heroku, and then you can actually deploy your front end on GitHub pages, maybe. So that's going to work. But make sure that your server is always up and running. Either you can deploy it on Heroku. So if you deploy it on Heroku, it's going to work all the time, right? So it's just going to go around and emit tweets. Yeah. Right. So either deploy your backend on Heroku and deploy your front end on GitHub pages. That's going to be completely fine. You can actually go around and do that. So that's pretty cool. All right. So let's do the UI part. So for that, what I'd be needing, I'd be using Bootstrap. You can use anything, any of the other frameworks. If you want to work on SaaS, you can work on SaaS. If you want to work on anything, that's completely up to you. Okay. So in here, what I'm going to do, I am going to go to get Bootstrap. So I'm just going to go and get Bootstrap. And out here, I'm just going to copy this CDN. So I'm just going to say copy. I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to paste this in. Okay. All right. So now I have the Bootstrap. Next thing that I'm going to do, let's do one thing. Let's actually get something called as that I'm going to get from here. So let's actually get it from CDN.js. Let's get font awesome. Just gonna copy this out. You can use anything that you want. It's just the styling part. All right. So that's completely up to you. All right. So let's go around and save that. Let me see. Yeah, it's gonna do the job. So down there, now I'm gonna go out here, and now I'm going to do one thing. Now, before actually doing just the console log, I actually want this tweet. For that, I'm just gonna stop this for a little second, all right? Or let it run, it hardly matters. So if I'm just gonna go out here, and let's actually, you know what? Let's actually create let's get rid of this. Let's actually go around and create a navbar first. And I'm just gonna, in the navbar, I'm just gonna give it a class because I'm using Bootstrap. So I'm just gonna give it a class of navbar, and let's make it, or let's do that, or let's not use that. Let's make it a little, so let's call this navbar. And what should I use? Let's use navbar dark. Let's see if that looks good. And then I'm just gonna make it BG dark. All right. So you can use anything that you want. Then I'm gonna create a container because it should align itself. And inside that, I'm just going to make an anchor tag, which is not gonna go anywhere. But I'm just going to make it a class of navbar brand. You can use anything that you want again. And here I'm just gonna say real time tweet stream. All right. Save, go back. If you look at the project, refresh, this is gonna look something like this. All right. So this is a navbar that I've created. You can create it pretty much however that you want. The styling part is completely up to you. I'm just, using it this way. If you want to make use of Twitter Bootstrap, you can use Twitter Bootstrap, and you can do anything that you want. That's completely up to you. Okay. Now comes the main part, which is that we have to log whatever we were logging. Can we use CSS? You can. That's what I'm saying, because inside this client, you can just create your own CSS. You can create your own JS. I'm just writing this in the script tag. You can actually can create a complete different file for the same, right? Because this is just, like a demo project. So I'm just gonna keep everything in the script tag, but this is not recommended, I should say. But I'm just gonna keep it this way, right? I'm just gonna keep it simple. I'm not gonna go around and do a lot of things. Now, before I actually go around and log something up, let's do one thing. Let's do one thing. Let's create a container rather first. Let's come down at the navbar and let's create a div out here. And I'm just gonna contain this inside a container. And I'm just gonna create a div called as tweet stream. And oh, sorry, rather than creating this as a class, let's create it as an ID. All right, and I'm just gonna call this stream. So this is gonna be an ID. And inside that, I'm not going to keep inside because I'm going to access this using DOM, and I'm going to go around and put it out from here. So let's do this. Let's come down here and let's create the data first. So this is the data that I want to print, data to be printed in the front end. So for that, I'm just going to say const data, which is going to be an array. Or let's make it an object rather, because accessing arrays is going to be a little difficult. Not difficult, but it's going to make you a little confusing. So I'm just going to create an ID. Now, if you remember, if you might have seen out here, if you'll refresh, if I could just show you out. Oh, I've stopped the console log, right? But this is giving me an error. So I'm just going to show you. If you remember, the ID, the tweet ID was inside tweet.data.id, right? So this is what I want to showcase in my front end. And the next thing that I want to do is the tweet part, which is the main text part. So this is inside tweet.data.text. And then I also want the username. Now, if you remember, I just showed you this username. This username was inside includes. Do you remember? So whatever object that we were getting, we were also getting an array of includes. I just showed you in when I was showing you the console log. Do you remember? So we had the username as well, but that was inside an array, which was this includes array. And in that includes object, we had a user array, right? So that's what I'm going to expect. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a backtick and I'm just going to say @ and then I'm going to put the value, which is going to be $value. And for the value part, I'm just going to keep this as tweet.includes, which was an object, includes. And this used to include an user, and it only had one user. And inside that, I'm going to grab the username, right? So that's what I'm going to do. And then let's go around and create an element for the same. So let's go around and say const tweet element, or just gonna call this, yeah, let's keep this tweet element. And I'm just going to say document.create element. So we are going to create an element first. And this is going to be a div element, let's say. You can create a paragraph if you want. I'm just going to create a div, right? And inside that, I'm going to style this up. So for that, I'm just going to say the class name property, right? If you might have studied DOM, you'd understand what I'm doing. So I'm just going to keep this card. Let's keep it menu. No, should I keep, no, let's keep it, should I keep it menu? But menu is going to look very small. So let's keep it card. And let's actually give it a margin top and bottom of 4 pixels. All right. And then I'm going to keep everything inside. So I'm just going to say tweet.innerHTML. Oh, sorry, tweet element.innerHTML. And I'm just going to put this as a backtick because I'm going to put a lot of things inside it, right? So out here, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a div. And I'm just going to give it a class of, what should I keep the class as? What should I keep the class as? Let's keep it card body. I just hope this don't look small because it's inside a container, but that's going to be fine. That's cool. That's not an issue. Let's see that. See, again, the styling part is completely up to you guys. All right. So don't mind me. I'm very choosy when it comes to styling, but you can actually go around and do anything because I just want, this project to look a little good. So that's what I'm doing. Now I've created up this container, which is this div. And inside that, I'm going to create a h5. And inside this h5, what I'm going to do is going to put the value, or rather, let's keep it this way. Let's keep the value of, first of all, let me show you the tweet rather. Let's show the tweet. Okay. So I'm just going to say, let's say tweet dot, or rather, we have extracted, right? We've extracted this. So let's call this data, whatever data that we have extracted. Let's keep this data.tweet. And let me actually just style this up. Let's call this class of card title, whatever you want, you can keep it. And then I'm just going to copy this out and I'm just going to put, what we call this as the username. So I'm just going to keep this tweet dot username, or just data.username. Yeah, just keep this username, right? And just to make it a little good, I'm just gonna call this subtitle rather than just calling title. I'm just gonna call this subtitle. And just to make it a little more pretty, I'm just gonna make this muted. So I'm just gonna say text muted so that it look more whitish. All right, so that it looks, like it's just the username that you're displaying. So that's going to be this. And then let's actually make one more thing. This is going to be interesting. So let's make an anchor tag. All right, let's make an anchor tag. And inside this anchor tag, what we are going to do, we are going to link the data. All right. And for that, I'm going to use something called as font awesome. So you can actually get this from the Bootstrap itself. So I'm going to make use of the Twitter icon. So I can just come out here, the font awesome, and I'm just going to grab the Twitter icon. All right. And inside this, what I can do, or rather, let's do one thing. Let's do one thing. It's an anchor tag, right? It's an anchor tag, right? So let's do one thing. Let's not give it, or let's make it this way. Let's make it button primary, right? Let's make it a button primary. And from here, let's give it a margin top of 3 pixels. And let's give it a HRA because it's going to be a button. So the way the Twitter works, you can just going to say HTTPS. It's going to be twitter.com, twitter.com slash whatever the tweet username is going to be, whatever the username is going to be. So that's what you're going to put. So I'm just going to say $, the value of the username. So how we can extract that? We are just going to say data.username, username, and then slash, and then you have to put one more thing, which is the status. And after status, you should be able to give the ID. So I'm just going to give the ID. So I'm just going to say data.id. Oh, sorry. So I'm just going to come out here and should be able to give the data.id. Right. So I've appended the URL. So that's how it's going to look like. And let's see what else could we do. And inside that, let's make an icon. So let's make an icon. And in this icon, I'm just going to give it a class of, in this, I can actually give the Twitter value. So I'm just going to say fab fa Twitter. And if you won't like the styling, you can actually change that. But let me see if the styling looks okay. Right. So at the end, I can just say go to the tweet, or just go to tweet. All right. Now with this, we have made this card. And now let's go around and append that up on this, what we have, this tweet element. So I'm just going to say tweet stream. Did I access that tweet stream? This tweet stream, I didn't access that, right? So let's call this. I'm just going to say const tweet stream. Tweet stream is equals to document.getElementById, by ID. And ID, I believe it's exactly the same, which is tweet stream. Okay. And then inside this tweet stream, I'm going to append child this element, which is this element, which is what? Tweet element. Oh, why am I giving it this way? Tweet element. All right. Now with this in place, let's go around and rerun the application. So I'm just going to say clear. Let's run the application. I hope everything goes okay. If you'll refresh this, cannot read the property of 0 of undefined. I believe I mentioned something wrong. So it said tweet dot includes dot, oh, it should be actually users rather than user. Let's go back, or rather let's rerun the server first. So I'm just going to clear this out. And now if I refresh, so you'll see the tweet would be coming down anytime. So you could see out here, this is how it looks like, right? So you could see that you will get these tweets at real time. You can actually go to these tweets if you want. So you could see all of these tweets are related to code, right? So you'll see code somewhere in between, right? So you can do that. Let's do one thing. If you'll go to index.js, let's try to change this. Anything specific that you want to have a look on? Anything specific? Marvel. Let's do Marvel. Or actually, let's go around and restart the server as well. Just to make sure that everything seems fine. So I'm just going to refresh and you'll see the Marvels, right? So all the tweets, the live tweets that are going to be based on Marvel, that's what you're going to see. So you can see out here, right? Interesting. So this is the Twitter stream API. You can go around and integrate it onto your React projects, or maybe, your Angular projects, or any projects for that matter. So this is the whole application, right? So this is how it works like. So you could see it will keep on going down and down. You could see that who has tweeted this. You can go to the tweets if you want. So you can just go to the tweet. So it's just going to open the tweet for you. So let's see this tweet as well. All right. So just to be sure, I could able to see the tweet. So yes, you can see the tweets. All right, you can see that these tweets are working exactly fine. All right, so we're good with this. How many of you actually understood this application? Be honest. Be honest. How many of you actually understood the application? What the utility of the application is? Yeah, please, Ishan, please. Please. 95% just have one confusion. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have. Any questions? Till the time, let me do one thing. Let me go around, and if we do it in React, then we have to use SocketIO. Yeah, you'll have to work on SocketIO. Or you know what we can do? See, but what the point is going to be, the point is going to be the asynchronous data communication. So if you're working on Ajax, or rather what you can do, see, Ishan, let's do it this way, that if you're working on, let's say, Ajax, or if, okay, let's say you're talking about React, right? So either you're going to use HTTP module, if I'm not wrong, or you're going to use fetch. What are you going to use? That depends. XS. So in that case, I'll give you the best possible way is to use open, but make sure that your backend is deployed. So what you can do, yeah, what you can do, you can take this index.js, right? It's an app. So it's a full-fledged backend, right? So what you can do is git commit. Just give me 1 second now. Complete project. And I'm just going to git push this. Yeah. So in that case, what you can do, you know, deploy your backend on Heroku, which is going to be this Express app. And then using React, you can use XCS and make an open request to this particular Heroku URL, because this is not going to use any, you know, any headers. The headers are being passed out here itself, as you can see. So all the headers which are being passed, you're already passing these headers in the index.js. So you can see all the authorizations you are passing, any of the functions that you're calling, you are taking care of all the headers part, right? And the only thing that you're going to respond back is going to be with a JSON, right? So if you're getting JSON, you can console log that JSON, or you can integrate that into your front, and that's completely fine, right? So that's completely fine. You can do that. All right. So now if you'll actually will go to GitHub, I have actually uploaded the whole project. So if somebody would be interested, you can just have a look on that. So we'll go to repositories, stream API. This is the link. So if you want to like use this app, you can use this, right? You can start this, you can fork this, you can clone this, you can do whatever you want with this. All right. So I hope everyone can access the link, the GitHub link. Everyone can access the GitHub link. All right. And this is the application that we have built. So be honest, how many of you actually understood what we did? So I'm just going to give you an overview, and then we're going to end up with the session, because if you'll be having any doubts, you can ask me your doubts. So what we did, we created up the backend first. We said that we are only going to design the functionality. So in the yesterday's part, we designed 3 functionalities, is to get these, actually 4 functionalities, get these tweets, set these tweets, or set the, what you call them, set the rule, set the rule, get the rule, and then delete the rule because it's going to be sticky. It's going to stick around. And then at the end, you're going to stream these tweets. And then in the today's session, what did we do? We created this as an Express app that you can see out here. We created up this as an Express app, and we created this as a server. Down at the bottom, you could see that we said that you're going to listen to the server at port 3000. And then what did we do? We created up a client, and in the client itself, you said that, hey, I'm going to integrate. First of all, you should be having the link of, the script of your SocketIO. And once you have that, you're going to open the connection from both the sides, right? And once you get this, you should be able to see server connected. And then what you're doing in the index.js, you are going to pass these values, right? And you're going to call these functions on the SocketIO, right? And that's what you're doing. And you can console log that if you want on the switch onto the connection, or you can just print that in your console, or you can actually build a whole front end and just go around and do that. So this is how it looks like when you have a front end. All right, so this is what we have done. So are we good? If you're good till here, if you don't have any doubts, just give me a big yes so that we can end up with the session. If you're good till here, if you have no doubts, if you actually understood it, just give me a big yes, we'll end up with the session then. So did you enjoy this small little project? Yeah, thank you so much. So if you did, you can yeah, one thing more I'll say, one thing more. You can actually go to my GitHub. Oh, why not GitHub? You can go around and add me up on LinkedIn if you want. All right, so you can add me up on your LinkedIn. So just in case, if you're interested to go around and connect, we can have a discussion on pretty much anything that you want, right? If you're interested in what to do in your future, if you're working on any projects, to let me know about that. And another part, go around and follow us up on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, anytime, Ishan, anytime. I'm available 24/7. And then this is going to be not exactly, but you can take this. All right, so just in case if you want to connect on a personal note, you can do that. And this is actually the GitHub for the company. So if you'd be coming out with any of the further seminars on front end or data science or anything, stay updated with the same. All right, so that's the stuff. All right, anything else that you want to talk about, or anything else that you have a doubt on, we can talk about that. Or if you're good, and if you're done, if you don't want to have to ask anything, just give me a yes, we'll end up with the session then. Are we good? Are we on the same page? Honestly, I'm very enthusiastic towards tech. So yeah, plus, yeah, it's just that way. As I said, I'm a little tech enthusiast, I'll say. And this is the only reason that